Cyber gang has stolen as much as $1 billion from over 100 financial institutions over the past 2 years. The gang, which has been dubbed Carbon.
What if a group of criminals stole millions without ever touching a bank?
Fresh information tonight about Friday's brazen bank robbery in Crichton. Listen to this, according to newly released court documents.
A heist so precise, so well planned, that the authorities still can't track the money down. Stay tuned as we dive into one of the most baffling robberies in history. The perfect plan. In 2006, the Securitas Depot in Tunbridge, England, became the target of one of the most elaborate and audacious heists in British history. It all started with a group of criminals who carefully studied the depot's operations, security systems, and routines. The mastermind behind the plan, armed with insider knowledge, knew the weak points of the security measures in place. This wasn't just a robbery, it was a well-thought-out mission that required months of planning. The criminals knew they needed to be quick and precise. They spent weeks learning the movements of the depot staff, observing the timing of cash deliveries, and identifying potential security lapses. The most crucial part of their plan was to get access to the vault, which held millions of pounds in cash. The criminals realized that by targeting the depot's security guards, they could easily gain access to the vaults without alerting the authorities. They knew it wouldn't be easy, but the plan was foolproof. Using a combination of intimidation and deception, they would have complete control over the situation. The criminals even went as far as to make sure no one would suspect their involvement, ensuring that the robbery would look like just another failed break-in. The stage was set for the biggest heist the UK had ever seen, and everything seemed to be going according to plan. Kidnapping the key witnesses. The criminals knew that in order for their heist to succeed, they would need to eliminate any potential threats. The most significant threat was the depot's manager, who had full access to the vault and the security systems. To ensure there would be no interference, they decided to kidnap the manager and his family. On the night before the heist, the group ambushed the manager and his family at their home. They were held at gunpoint, terrified and helpless, as the criminals made sure they stayed quiet. The kidnappers warned them that if they alerted anyone, they would be hurt. This move not only crippled the manager's ability to warn anyone, but it also served as a psychological advantage for the criminals, knowing that their key witnesses were under their control. While the manager's family was held captive, the criminals executed the next phase of the plan, heading to the depot, ready to carry out the robbery. The criminals had everything under control, with the manager completely unaware of what was about to unfold. The plan was to move swiftly, without any major disturbances, and get away with the money before anyone could respond. By removing the manager from the equation, the criminals effectively sealed their fate as they prepared to strike. A dangerous betrayal. The success of the Securitas Depot heist relied heavily on inside information, and the criminals found the perfect ally within the depot itself. A trusted employee who had worked at the depot for years became an unwitting accomplice in the plot. This insider knew the security systems inside and out, from the alarm codes to the time of cash deliveries, making them the perfect informant for the robbers. The insider had no idea just how deep the criminals had planned their scheme. All he thought was that the criminals were just after the money and would leave without causing harm. What he didn't know was that he was playing a dangerous game. When the criminals arrived at the depot, they used the insider's knowledge to disable the security cameras, bypass alarm systems, and access the vault. The robbers trusted their inside contact completely, unaware of the potential consequences. But this insider was about to find himself in the middle of a deadly game of betrayal. As the heist unfolded, it was clear that the line between friend and foe was becoming dangerously blurred. While the insider thought they were helping a robbery, they were unknowingly helping a criminal mastermind pull off one of the most infamous heists in British history. This betrayal was one of the key elements that allowed the criminals to execute their plan with such precision and effectiveness. The heist unfolds. On the night of the heist, everything was set in motion. The criminals, masked and armed, arrived at the Securitas Depot in the dead of night, under the cover of darkness. Using the insider's information, They had already disabled the security cameras and bypassed the alarm systems. The depot's guards, caught completely off guard, were immediately overpowered and taken hostage. The mastermind of the operation led the group with calm precision, giving instructions to the others to make sure every step of the plan was followed to the letter. They knew the vault, which held millions of pounds in cash, was the ultimate target. The heist was going according to plan. The criminals moved swiftly, showing no signs of hesitation. As the team worked to break into the vault, the kidnapped manager and his family were being held nearby, adding to the pressure. The criminals knew that if they were caught or anything went wrong, the manager's family would be in danger. But the group was well coordinated, and each move was calculated to avoid detection. The clock was ticking. Every second mattered as the criminals worked with surgical precision to load the stolen cash into their vehicles. In less than 2 hours, they had managed to take a fortune without anyone noticing, and as quickly as they arrived, they disappeared into the night. By the time the authorities arrived, the robbers were long gone, leaving behind a scene of chaos and confusion. The heist was complete, but the real mystery was just beginning. The hunt for the missing millions. Once the heist was discovered, the authorities launched an all-out manhunt to catch the criminals and recover the stolen cash. The scale of the robbery was staggering, and the police knew they were dealing with a highly organized group. However, the robbers had left behind very few clues. The fact that they had never touched a bank or left any direct paper trail made tracking them down even more difficult. The police focused their efforts on finding the getaway vehicles and tracing the paths the criminals might have taken. But with each passing day, the trail grew colder. No witnesses could identify the robbers, and the inside help had vanished without a trace. The criminals had planned their escape flawlessly, with no obvious mistakes. With the stolen cash spread across various locations and laundered through untraceable means, the authorities faced an uphill battle. Every lead seemed to go nowhere, and the mystery of the missing millions deepened. Investigators speculated that the robbers had already begun to divide the loot and invest it in businesses, making the cash untraceable. The fact that such a large sum of money was stolen without ever touching a bank added a chilling element to the case. It wasn't just a robbery. It was a carefully executed financial crime, one that might never be solved. As the days turned into weeks and the weeks into months, the hunt for the stolen millions continued, but the chances of recovering the money seemed slimmer with each passing day. Where's the money? Years have passed since the Securitas Depot robbery, but the questions remain. Where is the money? The authorities, despite their best efforts, have only recovered a small portion of the stolen cash, leaving most of the millions still unaccounted for. The investigation revealed that the criminals had taken extreme measures to launder and hide the money, using various methods to cover their tracks. Some of the cash was believed to be buried in secret locations, while other portions were laundered through businesses and offshore accounts. The lack of concrete leads has fueled speculation. Could the money still be hidden somewhere, waiting to be discovered? Or did the criminals manage to spend it all, transforming it into assets that are impossible to trace? Investigators have explored every possible avenue, but the sheer scale of the operation and the meticulous planning behind it have left them frustrated. The mystery deepens because many of the criminals involved were never caught. While some were arrested, the mastermind behind the heist remains elusive, and with him, the answers to the case. The involvement of insiders, combined with the clever execution of the plan, made it one of the most difficult cases to crack. As time goes on, it's becoming increasingly unlikely that the full amount will ever be recovered. The Securitas Depot robbery serves as a reminder of how sophisticated criminals can be and how millions can vanish without ever touching a bank, leaving behind only questions and unsolved mysteries. The mystery of the missing millions remains unsolved. But in our next video, we uncover how one man's perfect code was shattered by a single mistake. Don't miss it. His downfall is just around the corner.